First, I want to start off by thanking you for all coming, and secondly, for giving full play to the keynote addresses of President E.D. Mnangagwa, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and the First Secretary of the ruling party, ZANU-PF, and the shepherd of the permanent Zimbabwe revolution. We have had quite an eventful week of meetings of the party last week, starting with the Politburo and then following up with the Central Committee. There were momentous events. First of all, there was the declaration of national disaster to cope with the El Nino-induced drought, which has seen a near 80% devastation of our yield this season, including the failure of the crop in the most reliable bastions of food production in the country, which is Mashonaland West, Mashonaland Central, Mashonaland East, and other areas where we always normally rely for our food crop. This is an unprecedented drought, probably the worst in 4 decades. So clearly, it's an indication that climate change is afoot, because whilst we were suffering drought within Zimbabwe, our friend Mozambique was going through floods. You saw Maputo even seeing cars being washed away from the streets. So this is unprecedented, like I say, and the president saw it fit to rise to the occasion by declaring a national disaster. The good thing, or the positive thing, or the point of relief about this current drought is that the economy is in much good state to cope with this eventuality than at any other time in the history of the Republic. And this is courtesy of the economic reforms and the fiscal reforms, the economic and financial reforms, and the investment policies of the Second Republic, which has shifted the economy away from the sole reliability on agriculture, and the vagaries of the weather, to a much more robust economy where mining is increasingly playing an important role. The beauty about mining is that it relies on age-old resources and new investments. Come weather, come hail, come sunshine, mining does not respond to those. It's a durable, it's a perennial, it's a long-term, much more reliable source of economic activity for the country. So it hedges us out of the vagaries of the weather, which depend on the season. So I want to thank and to highlight and thank the President for his mining policies, which are attracting some of the most intrepid, enterprising capital in the global boardrooms of the world to come to Zimbabwe. And once you have that kind of money, you insulate your economy. You can realize that with the industrialization that America and later and Europe area got, their vulnerability to the weather in terms of the viability of their populations, of the survival of their populations, decreased. So it is good, and you can now understand why it is important to pursue Vision 2030, according to the President's economic policy, because we want an economy which is modern, which is much more insulated from the vagaries of periodic or changes in climate, but also which takes full advantage of the complementing sectors of our economy, all of them. So we are much better placed as a country to deal with the drought. And by declaring the national drought, he is calling upon the national resources to come in to the rescue of our rural population, and also he is calling upon people of goodwill across the world, countries which may nations and the United Nations system to come into the rescue. We are not the only one. Zambia is facing similar circumstances, and I think Malawi to a certain extent. So it's a sub-regional problem, because this El Nino has been stuck right in the middle of Mashonaland West, the Mashonaland province, which are our bread basket. This was the ecological center of El Nino this year, right in those key provinces of Zimbabwe, which are responsible for food production. So we are hit hard at where it matters most, which is the food producing regions of Zimbabwe. So we are calling upon the president is going to mobilize all the national resources to the tune of $2 billion to make sure that nobody dies of hunger in rural areas in particular, but also in the vulnerable urban areas. We are going full scale to ensure that no Zimbabwean dies of hunger. And I want to remind you that when ZANU-PF says it goes full scale, it means it. Organization is in the DNA of ZANU-PF. We fought a war against odds, organizing one-time indigent rural people. Vanhu vaingofudza mombe vachitandanisa mhashu kumamisha. We organized them into a force which overcame one of the foremost imperial powers of this world. Takatora vanhu vokwaRuzeva, and we galvanized them. So this is how we have survived as a party. It's through our history of organization. Organization is within the DNA of ZANU-PF. We pride on this continent that we are the most structured and organized society on the African continent. You don't win wars like that unless you get organized. So we are marshalling that organization to fight against El Nino drought, the Western 40 years. And we have pedigree. I told you about the war. I told you before about how we educated the whole population of this country. When we were the third last born on the continent, we are the foremost educated population on the continent, ahead of all other countries which were independent earlier on. That speaks volumes about the organizational capability of ZANU-PF. How we withstood sanctions for 2 decades, financial exclusion by the Americans, to be where we are still standing 2 decades later, defying Chester Croker, who says, I will divorce ZANU-PF from the Zimbabwe people through screaming the economy. We have survived. That speaks volumes of our organization, about how we fought COVID when there was gullish gleefulness, gleefulness, that with COVID, Zimbabwe will suffer most because it will be the last in queue in terms of support from the Western countries. We surprised the world. We came up tops, and the UN ranked us top in terms of the countries which were able to withstand COVID better than any other. That speaks volumes about the organizational capability of Zimbabwe. And it is this organizational capability which we are putting into play to make sure that we again score a major victory in the fight against the El Nino-induced drought. we will make sure that the president's call that no Zimbabwean will die of hunger is actually realized. We are not only is he mobilizing internal resources, 2 billion, but is reaching out to our diaspora, who has always been very supportive of the home economy. We are reaching out to NGOs, which means they will be part of this effort, those of goodwill. And we are also reaching out to the United Nations system to use its global experience to help us tweak whatever we may be doing at home to make sure that nobody goes hungry. We are also appealing to nations of goodwill, those who have always wanted Zimbabwe to succeed, and those who see hunger as a common fight, to come and help our efforts. So with this holistic approach, we are very much confident that the fight against famine, against hunger, let alone famine, will be successful. The government is fighting at 3 levels. It is making sure that the government machinery, the machinery of governance, the administrative capacity of government is focused and redirected and focused to address this issue. So the whole governance structure, from the provincial levels to the district levels to the ward levels, all of it is going to be alerted, to be vigilant, to make sure that people don't die of hunger. We previously focused on households. This time we have gone further down the ladder. We are focusing on individuals. The calculations have been done. We need about 7 kilograms, I think, of food per month, per individual, to survive. We will make sure that that is available. And as months come later and there's a bigger requirement, we will raise that level of food production maybe to 11 to 12. Calculations have been done. And this will be at individual level, not at household level. We want to make sure that nobody in the village, nobody in the ward goes hungry. So the government system are agri-tax officers, the district administrative officers, the social welfare system of governance, all those relevant government departments, they are now being told to focus, because this deficit is starting at the most difficult period of deprivation, which is this month, from about January, February to April. And it gets worse as we go into the year, because these months, normally people would have been relying on other sources of food on their own because of the rains, but this year it is not happening. So we are kicking in the system much earlier than we normally would have done because of the desperate situation of this drought. We are going further. We have said the system of governance is being tweaked. We also are going to use our part, the ruling party, because I told you DNA is in our organization. The whole political structure of the party is being told. That's why we had a central committee meeting yesterday the whole day, to go and be on the lookout so that we superintend this system by providing information to the central government about any areas where there may be deficits or where there may be discrepancies from our governance system. So the government bureaucrats be aware that the party will be superintending people at village level to make sure that people don't starve. And if you are a government bureaucrat, you get lax in your assignment, don't be surprised if the system picks you out, because we don't want our people to starve as a party. We are determined to make sure that we win this war the way we won the education one, the way we won the COVID one. So there are three aspects, which is the government at macro level, appealing, using its resources and appealing to everybody of goodwill to come to our help. That is the marshalling the resources to fight El Nino. Then the application of those resources, which is happening through the government machinery, which is being told to actually make sure that they go up to the individual level to make sure that there's no starvation. Then there is the added aspect of political supervision by the ruling party. We are making our structures make sure that everybody delivers to expectation. So with this holistic system, we think we will conquer and emerge from El Nino very strong. Beyond that, the government is using the experience of winter wheat, winter agriculture now, and the irrigation and Fumvudza to make sure that the deficit which we have got from lack of rain-fed agriculture is replaced by irrigation-produced crops. So we are going full out to make sure that our winter crop season is as successful as can be. If we, in the last 3 years, could come from a situation of wheat deficit to where we go to 460,000 tons, now we want to give a scale to bigger heights. And you know that wheat is higher value, and the productivity of wheat in winter is higher than that of maize in winter. So we will be making sure that our wheat stocks are higher, and if need be, we can use wheat in exchange for maize, which is our staple. And you know that wheat has got a higher value per ton than maize. And our winter season makes the production of wheat be more lucrative than the production of maize as a staple. So there will be a deliberate bias by the government to make sure that all dams are as much of the dams as possible are fully utilized. So a lot of investment will go to center pivots, a lot of investment will go to drip irrigation in this season to make sure, and in those areas which are warmer, where we can produce maize, like in the Lowveld, you know, the yields of Zimbabwe's sugar are the highest in the world in the Lowveld. So we can do it. We will make sure that we produce winter maize on a scale which we have never done before. It is a pleasing thing that with our young people who are very educated, who love their country, they are embracing new forms of agriculture in an exciting way. Isn't it pleasing that when you go to a drip irrigation store in urban areas, there are so many cars queuing, you think you are at a Chicken Inn. People are buying agricultural equipment, and most of it is drip irrigation. So these are high yields coming from educated young people who are seeing farming as an exciting new field of endeavor. This is higher yield. So all in all, this adds to the robustness of this economy to withstand the vagaries of rain-fed agriculture. And this is what the president has done, the president to the Republic, to make young people love the idea of cropping. And you can see the way, the quality of the fruits which are coming, the berries, the quality of the flowers which are coming. Zimbabwe is coming back in a big way in the horticulture industry and in the fruit industry, courtesy of this new excitement about agriculture, and also the return and engagement of our white population under the policies of collective effort into agriculture, you know, the contracts which are being given by the Minister of Agriculture. So all in all, we are marshalling our different capacities which the country has garnered over the years to make sure that our agricultural sector is vibrant. So this is the reason why I said we are in a much better state this time to overcome the vagaries of this El Nino drought than at any other time in history. And I want to thank the President of the Republic. He didn't predict El Nino. It's a probable thing, but it has happened, and it is now putting to the test what he has been talking about all along, that we can withstand its vagaries and save our population. He didn't intend that, but we will rise to the occasion, courtesy of what the Second Republic and President E.D. Mnangagwa has done. So nobody will die of hunger is his call, and everything will be done to ensure that the word of the President comes down to the actual saving of every Zimbabwean life during this difficult period of El Nino. I am thinking I'm done with that aspect. We were deliberating all those things as the Central Committee the whole day, you know, before Saturday, the whole day Saturday. The other exciting thing which I'm calling you for is the introduction of the ZiG as the new currency of Zimbabwe. We had the occasion where the new Reserve Bank Governor, Dr. Mshayawan, and a seasoned banker of many years, came before the nation to announce the arrival or the launch of a new currency, the ZiG. To underscore the support of the ZiG, buy gold, and I'll go to that. The President made sure that he took a tour of our gold vaults to demonstrate to the general Zimbabwe public that the structured currency we are bringing, which is based upon gold, the gold is actually there. I want to take you a little bit, you are young, but this is a true story. Sometime in 2014, I believe, we were at a ZANU-PF conference in Chinhoyi. The former president of the First Republic comes out before the membership of the party, 6,000 to 7,000. He says, we had our gold reserves. Then the Americans imposed sanctions. Then we were short of US dollars. As we were short of US dollars, our Reserve Bank Governor then, I won't mention the name, these days I'm not mentioning names. Our Reserve Bank Governor then engaged outsiders with excess of US dollars in the Arab world. They sell oil. So they sell oil in US dollars, which is what supports what is called the petrodollar. So they said, we can give you US dollars to the governor, who went back to his principal, but on condition that you back it, you support it with your gold. So it was agreed that we exchange our gold reserves then for US dollars. But the transaction to be complete, the Arabs demanded or requested that the gold move from our own vaults outside of the country to where they can see the gold themselves, which our former governor duly obliged. The story gets murky after that, according to the former president. The gold reserves are gone, the US dollars don't come. So he had a very facile explanation. He says, you know, Alibaba and the 40 thieves, these Arabs. So he goes back to folklore that the Alibaba stole our gold and never brought the US dollars. So the currency wars of this country worsened because we didn't have gold reserves. For your own information also, when Rhodes took over the mines, the historical mines which built Great Zimbabwe, Kami, Mapungubwe, in 1890s, afterwards our gold production went to almost 250, 260 tons per year as a country. We had mines of legend, Globe and Phoenix, Carmen Mortar Mine, Dalny, all these mines, they are historically recognized. I think Globe and Phoenix is recognized as one of the longest running gold mining reef. Even today, you just need to empty the water inside and you start digging gold. It has been going on for almost a century and more than that. I'm not sure how many years before the whites came, it was supporting the Mutapa civilization of gold. Where am I getting to? What I'm saying is that gold has always been the mainstay of Zimbabwe's economy. In pre-colonial times, the great Zimbabwe civilization subsisted on gold. You could not build these citadels I'm talking about if the currency was not reliable for centuries, because the workers would have not built, chipped stone and poured water, cut wood, burn granite, poured water, chip those into blocks which you see on Great Zimbabwe. That requires a consistency of stability in the currency. So gold has been our currency for years. I had an anecdote the other day in the Politburo to the membership to say, where does the word Shona come from? And I didn't know until somebody gave me what is probably a plausible explanation. And it was the Indian ambassador, former Indian ambassador. He says in Hindi, the word gold is Sona. You understand? Shona, Sona. And everybody who has traded with Zimbabwe before traded with this country because it was gold country. The Chinese came here for gold. That's why we have big dynasty pottery at Great Zimbabwe and before. The Arabs came here for gold. The Iranians at Kilwa, on the coast, they came here for gold. The Somalis, who probably gave the province Sofala its name in Mozambique, they are traders of note, the Somalis. They came here for gold. The Portuguese, when they came and rounded Africa, they went to Mutapa's kingdom and converted him to Christianity. They were looking at a country and a kingdom which supplied gold. I mean, his children ended up as bishops in Goa. They built the churches there. This is history. Because we're a gold country. Rhodes comes around. What did he come to Zimbabwe for? Gold. So the Hindu people also must have identified this country as gold country. So maybe we have now a proper explanation of the word Shona, gold country in Hindi. Because Shona is a language of trade, not a tribe. So why am I saying all this? There is absolute historical logic in the president saying that we are introducing gold, Zimbabwe gold, as a currency, and that it will be backed by gold. He is looking at the historical experience of what has backed Zimbabwe's currency before. Now, everybody now has a fetish about the US dollar. You know what is a fetish? Worshipping something like Shikiro, Mudzimu, Wemari. But the US dollar is only less than 300 years old. America becomes a country in 1779. All these civilizations which I am talking about, they existed before America became even a country. And we were making this economy deliver Africa's foremost civilization in sub-Saharan Africa, the great Zimbabwe civilization, based on a currency which was stable, when America did not even exist as a country. Why are you so much infatuated with the dollar of America, which is a later day currency than gold, which has always been the currency of this country? This is the question which I pose to all those pseudo-economists and Gift Mugano who want us to believe that the US dollar is the all and everything in currency. Ngavamboenda vanoverenga history yenyika ino kuti takabva kupi. Why did we run an economy before America which was not based on the US dollar and it gave Africa's foremost civilization? How did we do it? If America is the one which is the one which must give life to the currencies of other countries, we cannot accept that. And that's what the president has done. He has gone back to history. I want the Zimbabwe people to get confident, to absolutely trust their president, because what he's doing is just going back to what the Munumutapas did. So, by the same token, we expect every Zimbabwean to do his best to defend the ZiG from those who are charlatans. Vanoda kunyeba kuti tinoziya financial theory, vanoda kuziya kuti tinoziya mari, vachinyebera vanhu ana mugano. Musanyebe. This currency, gold, has existed for 5,000 years. It has outlived every government of the world for 5,000 years, because this is the story of human civilization. Gold has outlived every government of the world from every region for 5,000 years. America has only 300 years. It is the one which destroyed the gold currency only 78 in the 1960s. 1971. That's only when America used petroleum from Saudi Arabia to dethrone gold. And now you can see what the instability which it is doing to the global economy, because now the Arabs are beginning to run away from the US dollar. This is money created by government. And yet in Zimbabwe, it's money not created by government. It's created by our people digging gold. We dig money. Tinochera mari in Zimbabwe because gold is everywhere. Now, chaunochera chako, chonzi cho supporta currency. Iwota andichidi. Ndinoda chandinopiwa neku Washington. Chinobva ku New York, chinoprintwa ku New York. Oti we are an economist. Gavareke kuita poison our children in business school. Or in finance, anamugano. Tisirewo vana, try to be faithful to the science of finance, because it's a science. Try to tell the history of money as it is, not falsify it. But at the same time, admire the ingenuity of the President of the Republic and his economic team in going to use something which is ours, which we can touch. Kungotumira vana vadiki vari kuchera gold, kuti chera imwe gold tibve pa 30 tons tiende payakambotsitswa na Grods pa 300 tons, pa 250 tons, even half of that. And do you realize what has happened in the last 6 months or 4 months? The price of gold breaches $2,000. This week it is $2,300, $2,400. The more instability there is in the world geopolitics, the more the price of gold goes. Now you are telling me kuti unoda kuti currency iri kusupportwa nechinhu chine price iri kukwira every day, chine demand iri kukwira, chamuinacho I cannot trust it. I would trust the paper which is printed in Washington. No, it is not proper. So it is in this context that the president has decided to introduce the ZiG gold through his governor of the central bank. It will be backed by gold, and we are determined that it will keep its value in tandem with its reference point, which is the price of gold. And the price of gold is the same at any place during the day, anywhere in the world. It's determined by the London bullion market. The kunova price ye gold. Ainyeberwe. And by the way, the owners of the London bullion market, do you know who are the owners? The Chinese from Hong Kong. They own the London bullion market. So you can't play hanky-panky with the price of gold, because it is something which is universally traded. So there was a time when a private company gave this country a currency. This was Old Mutual Implied Rate, OMI. Everybody followed OMI until our currency collapsed. Apana akamboda kubvunza anonzi gift mugano kuti OMI yambobva kupi. It was coming from a derivative which was registered in New York. It's called BSIG. Check on your Google. Bright Sphere International Group. They were the owners of that derivative. That was where OMI, Old Mutual Implied Rate, was pegged. So a derivative of a company directed the currency of this country, and everybody followed it biblically in supermarkets and used it, Vachita exchange rate. Nobody questions that. Now we have the central bank governor of this country from an elected government. Yenyu occupy a reference point. Yaanota isi yang bullion market price ye gold. You don't want faith in that. Aspire kanga irima individuals unonzi mugano you wanted when it was a private company, you accepted that. This is blasphemy. This is duplicity of the worst possible kind. What am I saying? I'm saying to those who want to run down the ZiG, vachi trader and giving it a false value, vari kuseri kwe holiday inn hotel. Our security apparatus yakabva muhondo will be alert this time. We want to ask you kuti chayakupa price waiwanepi, because gold kumasvingo ne gold kwamtare, the price is the same as the one in Burkina Faso or in Bolivia. Saka price yako yaoda kucharge iweyo for the rate of exchange ye ZiG to the US dollar waiwanepi other than these institutions. Ombonyaso te explainera kuti waiwanepi. So I think the system will be very much alert. That's why the president, when he introduced this currency, he appealed, one, to all countries, all nations, to support Zimbabwe's new currency, so that they don't use geopolitics to undermine our currency, those who may not have goodwill. That's why I said Zimbabwe is a friend to none, and a friend to all and an enemy to none. Those countries which wish well Zimbabwe, they should be able to make us first to support our currency, but if they don't want to, just let it live. If you don't want to support, just let it live. But please don't undermine it. That's what his appeal. And secondly, he said to Zimbabweans, do your best to defend your currency. If there are people who are trading it other than in the way it should be done, then they should be able to explain why they are deviating from the price of gold, which is backing our currency. If they can't give a good explanation, then they must somehow account for their activities through the national security system of the country, because it means that you are using you are playing to somebody else who is trying to undermine our currency. And this also indicates that we are on the journey to monocurrency, an irreversible journey to a monocurrency, which is the ZiG, the Zimbabwe dollar. We have, of course, the assurance that until 2030 we use the multi-currency. But in a freely traded, market-driven demand and supply situation, that's what we will use. The president is not trying to use fiat, government promulgations to sustain. No, he's trying to use market forces to make sure that our currency is acceptable, because it maintains value in the market. So we are using market. There are people who have always saying ZANU-PF does not respect market forces. This time we are fully in tandem with market forces, harnessing them to make sure that our currency is supported. We will also, the governor, the Minister of Finance, both in the Politburo and Minister Mtuli, and also here, Deputy Minister Mnangagwa David, they gave an assurance that the government has not gone to the Reserve Bank to borrow money. It is not going to go back to the Reserve Bank to borrow money. So there will be no creation of money by the government through the Reserve Bank system. The creation of money by the government will be through value adding to the economy, which means increasing gold production. So everything will be done to make sure that young people dig more gold. Kumakaha, Kugwanda, Kugiant Mine. You know, I had the pleasure of seeing young people in Giant Mine giving people 10 cows. Vachitenda president kuti chef asatamboita mari yakadai tinodrive ma GD6 ku Pixton Mine vana adiki because of gold. So apana startup yakura in the world as the fastest the Zimbabwe gold production in SMEs. So this is a good thing. We are adding value through production. But beyond that, the president is also bringing lithium into the play. You just hear the announcement, kuti kumapinga kuchavakwa a full-fledged value chain of lithium batteries by the same companies which produce the fastest trains in China. High-speed trains. That company in China is the one which is going to Mapinga to produce battery, to put new energy vehicle batteries as we move from fossil fuels to new energy battery mobility. So Zimbabwe is snug in the center of new global mobility. This is creating value. You will be happy to know that in the next week or two, the blast furnace goes up at Mapinga, at Manize. These are value creation ventures by the president on a scale, on a global scale. We used to import $800 million worth of steel every year, annually. Now we'll be producing all of it in excess for export. You may not know. Ukaenda kuwange kune kwakazara trucks every day achitaura coking coal. We are making $10 million a day, a month from coking coal. These are all the ventures of the president under foreign direct investment to create wealth, to support the Zimbabwe dollar by creating wealth, not by printing money. You will be happy to know that even the IMF rebalanced the Zimbabwe GDP and repegged it. It was repegged it from 17 million at independence to 17 billion to $47 billion. This reflects a growth in the economy of Zimbabwe. Now, all this growth from 17 to 47 billion acknowledged by the IMF. How does it make the currency depreciate unless somebody is playing around with the currency? So the president says the government will not tamper with the currency. We expect all other people not also to tamper with that currency, because currency reflects the growth of the economy, the robustness, the organic growth of the economy. So our GDP has been repegged. The currency should reflect the growth in that economy. That's why I'm saying this so that you understand as the messengers of the word to the public that there is no reason why you should not have confidence in your currency. Those are kubara bwadika kwese kwandiri kuita chitaura zvese izvi kuti imi muite confidence yekunotaura vanhu kuti currency yenyu pane chikonzero chaita kuti president vadaro hazvina kungoitwa zvatsuro nagudo. It's based on economic fundamentals. We also expect that this new confidence in the economy will free money in the nostrils of this country, 1.5 to 1.8 billion US dollars. Mari ngomwa, mneziya mari ngomwa. Mari inongogara mbengi isingazvare kana interest, because the price of money is called interest. That's finance 101. The price of mari ine value. Value yayo inonzi interest. Mazvinzwaka. Saka mari iri mumabhengi yemanostrils imari ngoma haisikuena interest. Asi yakatoko imari yevana vamuZimbabwe haina kupiwa naAmerica. That money needs to be recycled. So we are hoping that with gold now being the currency, there can be fungibility between that nostro and gold and ZiG. Fungibility means kuchinjika. Unotambira ZiG, otambira nostro. Otambira nostro, otambira ZiG. That's fungibility. So maybe now there is a reason for the banks in this country not to keep idle money, because they can convert it to ZiG. And maybe with the wisdom of the Minister of Mines, together with this, according to the President's wishes, in consultation, maybe open the banks to come and buy gold, to set up gold centers. Kuti vana vari kuchera gold kwandataura kuiwa kuku vaone even more currency, vaone even more US dollars, so that they dig more gold under safe conditions, because there is every effort now to improve the safety of the mining environment for SMEs. Hapana chikonzero chokuti mwana ari kuenda kunochera goridhe mwana wake anoti baba havangadzoke nhasi. Hapana chikonzero chokuti murume ari kunochera gold mukadzi wake anoti baba havangadzoke nhasi kuma SMEs. Hapana chikonzero chokuti ana mai vane mwana ari kunochera goridhe vanoti mwana wangu haangadzoke nhasi. We need to bring safety to the SME sector. It has grown tremendous in a very short period of time of 6 years. But it has done, it is the basis why the ZiG is there, because we are producing more gold. So chinu chakanaka, if something is good, do more of it. So SMEs have been good. They've given us ZiG. Give them more support. And that's what the President was saying in the Politburo. So we will be doing everything to make sure that we increase our gold production by supporting the SME gold sector through introducing safety, through ease of marketing, through parity pricing of gold, so that the price anywhere in the world is the same. So these are the things which we are going to be done to make sure that our currency keeps value. Ndiri kuda kuti imi sevanyori vanodzidzisa vanhu nezvamunonyora mutaure kuti hapana chikonzero chingaite kuti ZiG yedu ishaye value. Kana paitikowo chikonzero chimwe imi mukachiona mustreet motiudza nekukatsira ndandimi munowana news. Toda kubvunza yeye kuti ndepapi pareswa kuti gold yedu isa maintain value, ZiG isa maintain. Kana pai chinoreswa negovernment chonhadzirwa, asi kana paine humwe huitwi usina tsarukano, tonyatsoongorora kuti wabva kupi kuti tisapote currency yedu. You also want to know that 80% of the money circulating in Zimbabwe in US dollar is in US dollars. Saka tatove nawo ma US dollars acho. Asi ma US dollars aongu akanyorwa kunzi US, asi haana kupiwa to Zimbabwe na America. They are not a gift of America to the Zimbabwe government. There was no Federal Reserve plane coming from New York landing at the airport in Zimbabwe giving us 80% of the currency to circulate. No, it didn't happen that way. How did we get those US dollars? We dug gold. We went and sold gold to the global market in Dubai in particular. Kwakureiza ma US iwayo kuya nawo kunokumba. Akabva kuAmerica achinzi ari kuenda kuDubai. Gold ndobva yanodhibana nawo muDubai, ndobva auya kuno kumusha. So it's our money. We have domesticated the US dollars in this country. That's why some of them are so dirty. The Americans will say, I see it, because we have domesticated that currency. Now, if it's already our money, whether it is ZiG yako muhomwe kana kuti US dollars, asiri mari yako yawaseenzera, chii chingakunetse kuti ushaye confidence mune ZiG rako if the other US dollars on the other pocket are what you earned yourself? The US dollars in circulation here, they are earned by Zimbabwe. They are not a gift from anybody else. They are hard work from the Zimbabwean people. So this is another layer of confidence. Yekuti unorambirei ZiG rako riri kusupportwa ne 80% yecurrency yema US. Awakatoseenzera kudhara awinawo muhomwe. We now want confidence kuti achibuda muhomwe mako mamwari mumapiro achibuda achienda musi achibuda achienda kumabhanka au achienda kunotenga gold yevana vadiki acirculate. This will give us a strong currency. I have been at length focusing on this issue yekuti muziye kuti beyond Zimbabwe, beyond trading to get US dollars, we actually dig money, because gold yacho yakazara everywhere. Pamwe pano patiri pana mukachera time munotonzwa vakubuda pano mani chinzi chaputika ipo panapa chegold. Amenoti mwari wacho akazviita sei akatipa gold yacho everywhere. Now, if we are a country which digs gold, which has been money for 5,000 years, it's like ndinenyota yawo makumbari mutisipiti uri kutadza ungukotamba kuti uchere mvura. So this is what we are doing as a country to support our currency. I think I've been very much at pains on those two important issues, the drought as well as the ZiG. I just want to end up by saying the Second Republic came first with strong NDS-1 policies. That's the president. Then he assembled a team, a dream economic team of our finance minister and the former central bank governor, and an equally competent one who is coming in to make sure that our economy, once stabilized, is given a supportive currency. The third element which he has brought in now is the Mutapa Sovereign Wealth Fund. We are seeing all these investments in lithium, in steel, in agriculture. They need infrastructure to support. Where we were lacking is that there had been no investment in our infrastructure because most of them were state-run companies which were not being efficiently and profitably run. Now, the seasoned banker who worked so hard to make sure that our currency does not lose value in the last 4 years, Comrade Mangunja, he has now been given the task of being chairman of the Mutapa Fund. Those assets which were idle, those dog assets in finance or in business, they are now going to be turned into cow assets which actually bring profit. And in the process, they service this economy which is coming up. We need railways, we need roads, we need water, we need new airports to service Anamanize. You can't fly from London, kunendege yako kuzotenga stadium Zimbabwe which will be the cheapest. Also driver 43 hours going to Kumanize. Tunoda airport ikoko. We need ports to Mozambique and the railways to connect. Saka the Mutapa Fund is there to make sure that these operations I am talking about are going to get the necessary capital because the balance sheet is already existing through proven production of steel, through proven production of coking coal, through proven production of lithium, through the establishment of a special economic zone at Mapinga, and maybe sooner another one for downstream steel fabrication at Manize. All these are balance sheets which you can take to any bank in the world and say, this kukwereta mari, je feja. Gambling with your money because the assets are there. So the Mutapa Fund complements is the last chapter in the president's reform of the economy so that it becomes a full-fledged private sector driven economy with capital from anywhere in the world coming into Zimbabwe to support the growth of this economy towards Vision 2030. That's what the president is doing. Now, in finance, you talk of money in terms of a decade or more. The money and annuities. They are not factoring where our economy is going to be in a decade or more, or by even 2030. What currency now collapse today when all these sinews of the economy are being marshaled by the president to make sure that Zimbabwe has got a vibrant economy. Saka value yako, the future value of the Zimbabwe dollar ya urukuita deny iwewe nasi uchida kuti ZiG ngae parari. Iri kumbobva kupi when all the economy is getting strong across the board. Urukunyeba because it is debunking the realities of economic theory and financial planning. That's why we are saying the ZiG dollar under all normal circumstances should strengthen because the economy is strengthened to the attestation of the IMF, which has repegged our value, our GDP to 47 billion. IMF yacho chaiyo. Saka imi muda kuzviramba zvichibobvepi when all the pundits, the accepted pundits of global finance are painting a rosy picture about Zimbabwe. Where is your negative aspect coming from? Iwe mugano yako iri kubva kupi? Ndatenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
You have a question?
Yes.
Please ask.
Question from freelance. Ndishona kuti nyaya yekuti musangano weZANU-PF uchange wapakati pekupiwa kwevanhu chikafu munguva yenzara auzokanganisi here kuti vasingatsvigiri bato pemusangano weZANU-PF vange vachizoshayawo chikafu?
Ndinoda kukuvimbisai kuti ZANU-PF ipati inoda vana vemuZimbabwe vese. Saka kana patakarwira independence yeZimbabwe hatina kumbopa chimedu kune vatinoti ndeve-ZANU-PF tichinyima vasiri ve-ZANU-PF. Ndosaka munhu wese achivhota muZimbabwe kunyange usiri we-ZANU-PF. Saka pane nyaya dzezvipiwa zvenyika ZANU-PF haipe ichipatsanura vana vedu. Tiri vana vanyamunhu tese muno muZimbabwe. Hapana asiri mwana wanyamunhu. Pakudya hapana kuti mwana womutorwa kana kuti mwana wani, tinodya tese mugate reZANU-PF. Saka pane nyaya tiri kuendera yekuti vanhu ZANU-PF kusenzesa ruzivo rweZANU-PF rwemakore ekuronga vanhu kuti tione kuti hurumende yaona kuti munhu wese adya. Haisiyo ZANU-PF inenge ichipa chikafu, kwete. Ndakutaurirai kuti vanopa chikafu igovernment, vanhu vanosenzera ma-extension officers vanobva kuMinistry of Agriculture, ve-health neve-social welfare. Hurumende yakasiyana neZANU-PF. Isi kwedu kungopikita veZANU-PF kuti hapana aita nzara here sepati inoda vanhu vemuZimbabwe, ndokwatakabva. Dai tisina kunge takaronga vanhu vemuZimbabwe tisina kusvika patakasvika. Saka pane nyaya yechikafu hapana mutorwa, hapana muvengi wepolitics. Tiri vana vanyamunhu. Mapira atakangoita vhoti kune mwana wese wemuZimbabwe kuti vhota kunyange usiri weZANU-PF, ndo mapira achangopa chikafu kune vanhu. Ndosaka muchiona ana CCC vakamira-mirawo vakawana mavhotsi avo pa-election yatakaitika. Hatina kumbaramba kuti because tiri veZANU-PF hatiarambe ndaya ye-CCC. Mapira atakapa vhoti kune vanhu ndo mapira atinongoita chikafu. Mazvinzwa ka? Hatisarudzi. Mapira atakakupai vhoti neve-CCC ndo mapira achakupai chikafu, muchanakirwa mufi nenzara. Kana mangoita nzara, ridzirai foni kuna Mutsvangwa panzvimbo penyu kuti tanyimwa nenzira yekuti hatisi veZANU-PF. Ndinoenda nonobvunza wacho ari kutaura iye kuti iwe uda kuti nditi ndinonyeba papress conference here iwe. Aripo futi mukomana wangu munomuridzira foni. What we say here is what will be done. Hatinyebi pane nyaya yechikafu.
Chishona imba kumaenderera zvakare makatsanangura nezvezigi mungatitsanangurira nechishona imba.
Ndati president vakaita misangano yavo yepolitibhiro pamwe chete neCentral Committee vachidaidzira utungamiri hweZANU-PF kuti ivo vazviona nemuono wavo kuti gavhena mutsva vamushaya vanhu, vataurire vanhu vemuZimbabwe kuti taane mutengo mutsva unonzi ZiG. Uyu ndo wange uchazenge uriwo uchasenzeswa kubvisa dzatati nadzo mitengo dzakasiyana-siyana including the RTGS. Vakaenderera pemberi vakati ZiG redu rerwendo rwuno richange rakatsamira pagoridhe yedu senyika, ndanyika yedu ine mbiri yekuchera goridhe. Zvekare ivo sapresident zita ravo itsva vanenge vakunzi Mr. Strong ZiG. Ivo zita ravo aMnangagwa, president Mnangagwa vanenge vakupiwa zita itsva rekuti Strong ZiG. Vachaita zvese zvavanoigona sapresident kuti ZiG reZimbabwe rirambe rakasimba vachisapota Central Bank Governor vamushaya vanhu. Havasi kuzobvumidza ivo kuti ZiG rive rinozvira pamutengo. ZiG iri richange richiratidza kuti vane ruvimbo naro rinosapotwa negoridhe. Vakabva vaenda kunoratidza kunyika ino kureserve bank kuti goridhe yacho iyi, and goridhe yacho yavari kutaura iri kucherwa nevana vemuzimbabwe vamunoziva vese, vana vechidiki, kuti kubvira 2016 vakabvumidzwa kuchera goridhe. Ndo vaita kuti goridhe redu ribve pavaibvisa ivo 3 tons yapa 30 tons 35, and tiri kuenderera mberi tichikurudzira vana vechidiki vanochera goridhe kuti irambe ichiwande ndando inenge iriyo mutsago wemari yedu yeZiG goridhe. Goridhe price raro rimwe chete pasi rinoresi whether uri kuVenezuela kana kuVanuatu, rinobva kunonzi kumusika wegoridhe unonzi London Bullion Market. Saka kana uchida kuziva kuti mari yako iri kukosha zvakadii nhasi, unoenda paintaneti muna Google wotarisa price yegold, wobva waziva kuti yakamira sei. Waurida kuchinja naye akakubvisira ipapo womuti waiwana kupi price iyoyo. Saka waane chikwangwani chinokutaurira kuti mari yako nhasi muhomwe yakamira sei, chisina kutsamirana neimwe hurumende yeimwe nyika semari yekuAmerica kana dzimwe nyika. Chakatsamirana negoridhe yatinochera asi iri kutengeswa pasi rino pamusika unozivikanwa mumwe chete, musika wegoridhe mumwe chete. Hauna goridhe haina misika yakasiyana siyana, ine musika 1. Saka tiri kukumbirawo president wakabva wataura kuti akukumbira kuti vese vanoda kuramba kuti ZiG ine mutengo wakati nhasi wava vari kuwana kupi usingabve kumusika wemari wegoridhe unonzi London Bullion Market. Saka imari yatinofunga kuti yavengangera pakusimba, ichaita kuti ikonomi yeZimbabwe irambe ichienderera pamberi ichisimba, nekugona kuri kuitwa napresident kudaidzirawo vamwe vane mari dzavo hombe kuuya kuzoisa munyika ino muzvicherwa zvedu zvikuru. Muchafara vakataura president kuti mwedzi uno svondo rino makavaona mwedzi wakapera mwedzi uno vakaenda kunoona steel plant kumanhize yatove kuenda kunovhutirwa svondo riri kuteera iri kutanga kuproducer steel. Vakataura zvekare kuti vanonhadzira mabhatiri emotikari itsva dzaakupinda dzisingaseenzese mafuta epeturu kana dhiziri, mabhatiri acho achanga achiitwa nelithium iri kucherwa muZimbabwe yakazara muno pamapinga. Zvese izvi zvinhu zvinoita kuti ikonomi yedu irambe ichisimba. Saka mari, kusimba kwemari kunobva kudi kuudzamo hwemari unobva kuikonomi yenyu kune zvicherwa kune zvemaoko amuri kuita munyika menyu. Saka zvese izvi zviri kuratidza kuti president vari kuti ikonomi yedu isimbe. Saka karenzi yedu inofanira kuramba ichingosimba. Saka zviri kutishambisa kuti kune vamwe vanhu vanongoti vakanzwa kuti mari itsva yauya ana gift mugano woti haimbosenzi. Tokubvunza kuti zvauri kumbozvitaura zvako zviri kubva papi? Isayenzi iri kutaura kuti ikonomi iri kukura. Tobva taona kuti unhubu huri kuvaita kuti vadaro havadi kuti nyika ino ive nekodzero yekuti ive nekarenzi yayo. Saka unhubu rwendo runoti chaubvunza kuti unhubu hwako hunobva kupi mufungwa mako, asi chokwadi chiripo ndechichi. London Bullion Market iri kuti gold price yayo ndezvakati. Ikonomi iri kunzi yakura neIMF yakudziridzwa kubva kusvika pa47 billion US dollars GDP. Ndozviri kutaurwa neIMF, shasha dzepasi pano dzeikonomi. Iwe mugano kwako zvako zvauri kutaura izvo uri kumbozviwanepi kunze kwekuti une unhubu chete mumusoro mako? Ndatenda.
Another questions?
You spoke about the establishment of lithium batteries manufacturing plants,
Yeah.
but it did not divulge the name of the company that will be undertaking the project.
I think the name of the company inonzi Eagle Canyon. Makatwinzwa ndo ine vamwe vari kubuhera vari kuchera lithium padhuze padorowa. The company inobva kuChingdao kuChina. President vachiri vice president vakatomboishanyira muna 2015 company iyoyi vakanga vasati vamboziva kuti lithium ichasvika pairapo, asi nekunaka kwaMwari Zimbabwe yakazoonekwa ine lithium yakawanda. We have 25 to 30% of the world hard rock lithium muZimbabwe. Saka company yekuChina imwe yedzimwe 6 dzekuChina dzatove nekune imwe yekuCanada neimwe yekuBritain dzatove muno kuchera lithium. Saka mutemo wakaiswa negamuri wekuti lithium yacho inofanira kuti iitwe muZimbabwe isabude. Saka makambani iwayo ari kutiwo zvinotibatsira kuti tiinveste muZimbabwe kana musingatengese lithium imbishi kune makompetitors edu kunze kwenyika. Saka ivava ndo vari kuti taakunovaka pamapinga. Cobalt inobva kuDRC, bhatiri iri rine maminerals matatu: lithium, cobalt nenickel. Lithium yakazara kuZimbabwe ndakutaurirai, kozoya futi graphite irimo. Lithium yakazara muZimbabwe. Graphite munoziva paLinks mine kuKaroi. We have one of the largest lithium graphite mines in the world, paKaroi. Road iyo yacho paKaroi ndio iri kuenda kuDRC. Marori ese amunoona achiuya aya malowbed anokunetsai kana munoda kuenda kuKariba kuholiday. Akazara cobalt iri kubva kuDRC. 60% to 70% of the cobalt comes from the DRC. Pamusoro pazvo graphite imwe inowanikwa kuMozambique, the largest mine in the whole world, iri kuMozambique. But zvese izvi kuti zvifambe mufonimu zvinoda copper, and Zambia neDRC dzinoteera Chile nePeru kuve the biggest producers of copper. Saka kambani iyi neungwaru hwayo yazviona zvine kodzero kuti iuye izonadzira mabhatiri padhuze panobva zvicherwa zvacho nobva vauya pamapinga muZimbabwe. Saka chinodiwa ndechekuti tichiita investment inoita kuti value chain yacho kubva kumapeto kunosvika kumagumo ndo value chain ive complete, ive yakazara. Ikazara iyoyo tinenge taakubudisa mabhatiri anenge achibvawo muZimbabwe achinotengeswa kune dzimwe nyika, kuti Toyota kana Tesla yako kana BYD yako pasi rino uri kupi nekupi, kuAustralia kana kuAfghanistan, unge uine bhatiri rakanzi made in Zimbabwe. Mazviona kunaka kwazvo. Mabasa epamusoro achange ari munyika muno, world class products made in Zimbabwe for the global market. Ndo kuri kuenda president. Ndo saka maona kwa kuine diaspora conference yekumasvingo yekuti vana vedu vakaenda kunoratidza unyanzvi kune dzimwe nyika dzemabasa emaoko, vachiratidza kuti Zimbabwe is disciplined, is educated and is competent. Vanga vakanoratidza unyanzvi hwavo kune dzimwe nyika. Taakuti ngavatape shamwari dzavo dzekune dzimwe nyika idzi dzino ruzivo rwavakawana over the years, vadzoke kumusha tizoita mashura neruzivo rwavanarwo rwekune dzimwe nyika dzakabuka dzakabuda kupfuura dzedu, tichiuya tichiitawo isusu zvinoitwa nedzimwe nyika, kuti unoendawo mumasupermarket, madepartment store pasi rino uchionawo wakamirirwa nechinhu chakanzi made in Zimbabwe, wobva wafara kuti ndechekumusha kwangu ichi chabva pamapinga. Bhatiri riri kuchaja motikari yandatora ndiri kuFinland rakanadzirwa kumapinga. Zvinhu zvakanaka izvozvo. Ndo kuri kuenda economy yedu ichiendeswa napresident. Ndiri kuda kuti kunyanyo kuzadzisa ipapo ndichiti pane nyaya dzesimbi inonadzirwa kuChina ichinzi iri cheap, asi simbi yabva kuBrazil 12,000 kilometers away. Iron ore imwe yabva kuAustralia 7,000 kilometers away. Imwe yabva kuKumba iron kuSouth Africa 10,000 kilometers away. Imwe yabva kuIndonesia yoenda kuChina. China yoita number 1. Isu rwendo rwuno pamanhizi, mugodhi wesimbi womakome manhizi uri 7 kilometers away from the blast furnace. Marasha acho, the best coking coal you can think of, iri kubva paHwange, straight line 500 kilometers kubva pamanhizi kuenda kuHwange. Mazviona koromo inoita kuti ite carbon steel, manhizi yakatsamirana the Great Dyke kubva kuGwanda kunosvika kuShamva, ikoromo iyoyo. Saka all the resources which make iron, which make steel, are within 500 kilometers of each other. In terms of the price of steel, no country should produce steel cheaper than Zimbabwe. Saka amunangagwa nekugona kwavo vakanotsvaga nyanzvi, the best steel producer in the world, Tsingshan, kuti uye zeita izvozvo. Yakaita mashura kuIndonesia nenickel, ikaita Indonesia number 2 in the whole world in steel production. Rwendo rwuno company iyo iri kutira kuti Zimbabwe iite mashura in the whole world kuproduce carbon steel inoseenzeswa munjanji, mumapylons, inoseenzeswa mabridge, inoseenzeswa kunadzira motikari, ndo carbon steel. Iitwe muZimbabwe cheaper than any other place in the world. iwaya achaita kuti mabasa akawanda vechidiki muende kuenda uku. Munomboziva kuti zvese zvaitwa kumanhizi, all that structure yese haina kunadzirwa kuChina. Only the blast furnaces and the superstructure yakanadzirwa nevana muZimbabwe nemachina vavo ma-experts pamanhizi paya. All that steel structure. President vakakatyamidzwa vachiona vana 1600 vachingaranganda simbi kuti vanadzire zviri pamanhizi. Zvino rwendo runo simbi yacho haichabva kuChina kana kuSouth Africa, inenge ichibva pamanhizi ipapo. Chinhu chakanaka kaichi. Muri kuona magonero ari kuita aMunangagwa. He is taking this country to vistas which Africa has never seen. I want to thank you.
Any other questions?
Musabate shayo, bvunzai mubvunzo. Mubata shayo nekunakirwa nebasa riri kuitwa naMunangagwa rakanaka. Muchabata dziri mbiri. Thank you so much. Any other question? It means everybody is happy. I thank you so much. I don't take lightly. Now nasimakati one day saka chicken in yepa count ndotongofa hangu because I've never had such a big conference and an attentive conference. I'm happy about it. I really say thank you because you take what goes on at the part of the Zimbabwe Revolution, permanent Zimbabwe Revolution, seriously. Mukaenda kune mamwe mapata hakuna zvakadai because hakusi organized. Takazoona musuno vakudzoka takavaunza vachiona tiri mudare redu muno. Isu tine structure, tine organization, tinoita debate yezvinhu. President vachibvunzwa vachibvumburudzwa kana zvichigona nemibvunzo yevanhu vanoda pati yavo. Ivo vachishushuka kuti ndingapindure sei kuti vanhu vadzokere kune membership yedu, vanhu vanonzwisisa. Ndo zvaita kuti pati ino isvike kwatiri. Vamwe vaya vakati pati yedu inonzi wapusa tinongoita zvenjabe. Hakuchina pati, hakuchina mukuru. Rangove donga watonga chipatapata nhaka yemakonzo kune pati iyoyo. Isi ticharamba takatsigirira vanhu vakarwira hondo. Ndoda kupedzesera so ndakanganwa. Pane chirongwa dingindira remandiriri musi wa 18 April rikuitwa kwaMurampinda. We are having the Independence Party celebrations in Manicaland, kwaMurampinda kuBuhera, kudzapasi kudhuze nedzapasi assembly point. That's where we are going to have our independence celebrations. Last year we honored the cradle of the Zimbabwe War. Kwakasimwa hondo navatongogara navachitepo kuti vana vemuZimbabwe maane masoja enyu zvakare akanga arohwa naRhodes in 1893 Robengura na 1896 ana mashaya mombe. Saka hondo yakazonosimwa kuMashonaland Central kuMount Darwin. Kwakazotambirwa hondo zvine mutsigo vana vachiwodzomoka kuenda kunoirwira kuMozambique vaipfuura nekuManicaland. Saka chakai yakazoita hwaro hwehondo uku kuri kunhongedzo yehondo. Hwaro hwehondo kuManicaland ndo kwakarwiwa mageneral mazhinji amunoona yese mazhinji anobva ikoko vakati one day ndo kwakarwiwa hondo zvikuru kupfuura imwe nzvimbo yese tichibva kuna Zambezi kusvika kuLimpopo kumakomo iko kuya kwakaita kuti tizorova varungu pamavhonde kuti Rhodes kuti Peter Walls anzi the general nemaBritish is Tongogara iwe Peter Walls saruta. Zvakaitika kuManicaland. Saka ndokuri kuenda independence musi wa 18 April. Saka tiri kukumbirisa muendese shoko kune vana vemuZimbabwe kuti uyai kumusha kwakaita kuti hondo idzike midzi kuManicaland kuti tiite ma-celebrations musi wa 18 vachange variko president. The flame of independence is already there kuManicaland kuBuhera kwaMurampinda. Ndati ndisimbise shoko iroro kuti we are going to have our independence celebrations, 44 years of independence in Manicaland, and the president with his policy of decentralization ticharamba tichitenderera kwese tichiendesa kuti ma-celebrations azare. Hondo yakasunungura nyika ino yakarwiwa kwese muZimbabwe haina nzvimbo yayakasiya. Saka ndo chirongwa chimwe chandati nditaure pano chandandati resvei ndanakidzwa nekungoramba ndichiti dai maramba muchibvaira neZiG yenyu, itaiwo confidence neZiG, itaiwo futi confidence nechakazvara ZiG independence yedu iri kucelebrerwa kuManicaland musi wani, musi wa18 April kwa Murambinda. Pane chandasiya here direct?
I think hatakava zvese.
Pane chimwe chandasiya. Kana muine zvimwe zvamakambonzwa zvamusiri clear off, ndivhurisewo pfungwa dzangu ndibva ndatotaura nezvazvo. Zvekare president vakatigonera kuenda kuPupu uko kuMat North kwakarohwa varungu naRobengura. Iye akazopedzisira akanga atotiza guta rake reninga akazoenda kwaanonzi akaenda. Saka papa ine monument yakaisiwa yevarungu vachinzi vakaurayiwa ipapo. President vakaona paine kodzero kuti vachiisa monument itsva yevakahwina. Saka this is the revival, this is the history of the revival of our military virility as a people of Zimbabwe. We lost militarily. We had to restore our military virility. That's what Second Chimurenga did. Saka president vakataura after Pupu vakaudza minister we-home affairs kuti nzvimbo dzese dzakarwiwa Chimurenga chekutanga nechechipiri dzamunoziya ngadziongororwe, vanhu vataure story yavo, tiise mamemorial imomo kuti unyanzvi hweugamba hwevana vemuZimbabwe vachidefenda vachiita masoja avo huzare mune vana vechizvarwa vachipo nhasi nevachateera. So he is encouraging this telling of the story of the military resurgence of modern Zimbabwe. Kuti izonzi Zimbabwe Defense Forces yakabva kupi? Army yedu yatinodada nayo yadefenda independence yedu inobva muZanla muZipra. Matraditions acho achibva kupi? Achibva kunana Pupu nana Mashaya Mombe. For your own information, in 1896 Mashaya Mombe won the first round pano paMondorap pa Fort Martin. Pano pa Fort Martin. We are going to work hard kuti musoro wake wakaendeswa kuLondon. History yacho ichibuda kuti akamhenga aita sei kusvika pakuwana mukadzi wechirungu ahwina battle arova varungu. Akazokundwa pakauya reinforcement afterwards. This is the story of the first Chimurenga, and there are many other places like that. Ana Chingaira, anani. Saka president vada kuti history yedu ichitaurwa nekugona kwekuti takadzosa masoja edu. The only African country which took on the foremost imperial power of all ages, it's Ketspo, the Rhodesian army, and won militarily. Ndizo zviri matiri kuti takahwina. Saka president vada kuti history iyoyo ipinde mune vanhu. Tarova varuku muno South Africa yakasarenda isina kubvuriswa vanhu vatema because vakatya kuti maroverwo avaitwa muZimbabwe haangazoitwa kuSouth Africa. Saka the victory of South Africa is our military bonus here. Saka that is the tradition which the president wants revived by going to the places where the war was fought and making sure that memorials are set so that in the future panoitwa tourism yekutenderera muchienda nzvimbo dzakasiyana muchiti ndo pakarwiwa pakati apa. Haikona kungodzidza zvana Napoleon nana Nelson nanani musikaziye tongogara woti uri munhu. You got to know your own history first, and the starting point is the military virility of Zimbabwe. Where does it come from? The ZDF, where was it born? I want to thank you. Ndokupedzesa kwangu. Mandibatsira vandibvunza mubvunzo kuti ndandareswa pane zvinhu zviviri izvozvo zveindependence celebration, ndandareswazve nechirongwa chapresident chekuti tidzokorore kuhistory yedu. Ndazotaura zvekare nenyaya yediaspora conference yekumasvingo. These were important events which happened kuti tirambe tichiti Zimbabwe irambe ichisimba isvike kwainoenda senyika. Ndatenda. I want to thank you.